Olivia de Havilland and Joan Fontaine had a bitter rivalry that lasted a lifetime. Joan remembered no act of kindness from Olivia. Olivia labeled Joan a dragon lady. You might think Hollywood's cutthroat industry fueled their feud, but the truth is their battles started long before the fame, rooted deep in childhood jealousy and family tensions. I did the digging, the receipts are real, and so is the drama. Buckle up, because today we'll unpack the family fights, the career showdowns, and the unforgettable Oscar night that put their feud on full public display. Olivia de Havilland and Joan Fontaine were the first pair of siblings ever nominated against each other for Best Actress. That year, Olivia was nominated for Hold Back the Dawn, while Joan was up for her role as the timid, gaslit newlywed in Hitchcock's thriller Suspicion. It was 1942, and the entire room buzzed with anticipation, not just about who would win, but how the other would react. The press was particularly salivating. Attendees that night were hoping for a dramatic scene. Tears, foot stomping, or a meltdown. Anything. But when Ginger Rogers announced that Joan had won for Suspicion, Olivia reached out across the table, took her sister's hand, and said, "We've got it." Not the meltdown the room was hoping for. But Joan's version tells a different story. In her 1978 memoir, No Bed of Roses, she wrote, "I froze. I stared across the table where Olivia was sitting opposite me. 'Get up,' she whispered commandingly. 'Now what have I done?' All the animus we felt toward each other, the hair pulling, the savage wrestling matches, all came back to me in a kaleidoscope imagery. My paralysis was total. I felt Olivia would spring across the table and grab me by the hair. Damn it, I incurred her wrath again." So yeah, tension was thick. Fast forward to 1946, Olivia wins her first Oscar for To Each His Own. Joan tries to be gracious, goes up to congratulate her, and gets iced. Olivia clutched her Oscar to her chest, ignored my outreached hand, and wheeled away. The photo, supposedly showing the famous sister snub, became instant tabloid gold. But according to Olivia, it wasn't shade, it was adrenaline. In later interviews, she claimed she was overwhelmed and simply didn't register Joan in the moment. A case of award night tunnel vision or selective eyesight. Either way, the press didn't hold back, and the public was already clued in. Just 4 years earlier, Life magazine had dropped its now infamous May 1942 profile, Sister Act, published right after Joan's Oscar win for Suspicion, and boy did the public eat it up. It was the first time the public got a whiff of something sour between the sisters. The article didn't dance around either. It painted their relationship as frosty and competitive from the start, with one unforgettable line stating, "At the age of 9, Joan decided she would kill her sister." Yikes. As well as later recalling, after returning home from a visit with her father, she was dismayed to find Olivia still the center of attention thanks to her sudden success in the movies. Their rivalry was so thick you could cut it with a knife. In their defense, I wouldn't want to be constantly compared to my sister either, so I can understand why they're both a little bitter. During the photo shoot for this article, they reportedly posed together in only 7 out of more than 100 shots. Sure, the Oscar snub got the headlines, but the real story? That started the day Joan decided her sister Olivia was her enemy, and she wasn't even 10 years old yet. Olivia and Joan, born just 15 months apart, shared a bedroom and a whole lot of bad blood. The rivalry between them started young, and unlike many Hollywood feuds, their roots weren't planted on a soundstage. They were planted long time ago at home. When you look at how Olivia and Joan described each other's childhood behavior, a lot of it sounds like classic sibling rivalry, or at least on the surface. Now, Olivia rarely spoke publicly about their childhood drama. She was the more reserved of the two, keeping things classy and quiet. That is until Joan passed away. Then, little by little, Olivia started to open up. We'll get into that a little bit later in the video. radio. As kids, they didn't just bicker, they battled. Olivia reportedly loved performing dramatic readings of the Bible's crucifixion scene to scare Joan, while Joan would get back at her by mimicking every single word she said. Joan didn't hold back when it came to retelling their childhood fights. One particularly rough one ended with Olivia allegedly fracturing her collarbone. She described an incident in her memoir where Olivia, quote, threw me down on the poolside flagstone border, jumped on top of me, and fractured my collarbone. Olivia, on the other hand, admitted to the scuffle but claimed it happened when they were much younger and that Joan started it by grabbing her ankle. Sibling love. Always a matter of perspective, right? Even in high school, Olivia couldn't resist getting a dig in. At Los Gatos High, she reportedly won a student magazine's, quote, last will and testament competition with this zinger. I bequeath to my sister the ability to win boys' hearts, which she does not have at the present. Where did this animosity stem from? Joan believed their family dynamics played a significant role. In later interviews, she stated, I really think it happened when I was born. Our parents and people around us brought us up with a point of view of vying. We were rivals long before we thought of being actresses. She felt she was never properly introduced to Olivia when she was born, leading to lifelong resentment. And the family shade was not subtle. At the Rebecca premiere, gossip columnist Lula Parsons caught their mother Lillian on the radio, saying, Joan has always seemed rather phony to me in real life, but she's quite believable on the screen. A rather harsh thing to say about your own daughter, especially on national radio. Allegedly, it was their mother Lillian who first insisted that Joan change her last name, because she preferred Olivia to keep de Havilland, though some accounts suggest Olivia may have pushed for it too. Either way, Joan was the one who ended up with the new name. So, Joan borrowed Fontaine from her stepfather. Speaking of the stepfather, Joan mentioned that George Fontaine, whom both sisters described as strict and abusive, enforced a rigid household that intensified the competition between them both. One such punishment involved forcing the sisters to choose between drinking cod liver oil to induce vomiting or receiving beatings with a wooden clothes hanger. I'm sure that didn't help the situation. The early resentment did not fade. It simply found new fuel and fame. Olivia's face lit up on the big screen, and somewhere in the dark, Joan was watching, curious, competitive, and ready. After a childhood of collarbone fracturing and quote-unquote savage wrestling matches, Olivia made the first official leap into stardom. At just 18, she was cast in A Midsummer Night's Dream, and soon after, signed with Warner Brothers. She became a studio favorite fast, starring in classics like Captain Blood, The Adventures of Robin Hood, and of course, Gone with the Wind. And Joan, she wanted in too. So she sought Olivia's help. Olivia agreed, on the condition that Joan changed her last name as her mother suggested. Joan complied, adopting the surname Fontaine. Olivia's response, Joan Fontaine, I don't know who she is. Ouch. And then came the first real career tangle. In her memoir, Joan recalled auditioning for the role of Madeline in Gone with the Wind in 1938. Director George Cukor rejected her, saying she was too chic for the part. Joan wrote that he threw his hands up and said, Madeline must be a plain, simple Southern girl. Well, after hearing that, Joan suggested Olivia might be a better fit, a move she later called a grave error. Now, let's talk Rebecca. David O. Selznick originally wanted Olivia for the lead in Hitchcock's 1940 thriller, but Warner Brothers wouldn't loan her out. Selznick reportedly asked Olivia, would you mind if I take your sister? Olivia told Vanity Fair, I was losing a brilliant part, but okay. And here's where things get catty. In 2016, 70 years later, Olivia still had thoughts about Joan and Rebecca. She said, she was really better for it than I was. She was blonde and Larry was brunette. implying she only got the part because of something simple as her hair color. Joan's Rebecca performance scored her an Oscar nomination. The next year is when she won her Oscar for Suspicion, making her the only actor to win an Oscar for a Hitchcock film. But Joan wasn't about to let Olivia keep the "I made you" narrative. According to her, she helped Olivia land the role of Madeline in Gone with the Wind by stepping aside and offering her name. Olivia, of course, claimed she paved the way for Rebecca by letting Joan take the role she'd originally been offered. So basically, "I gave her that role" was a game both sisters loved to play. And then there was Howard Hughes. Joan claimed in her memoir that he proposed to her while still dating Olivia by writing, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, especially in favor of a sister." Oof. Joan later married actor Brian Aherne, who, surprise, had previously dated Olivia. You sensing a pattern here? Then Olivia married novelist Marcus Goodrich. Joan's reaction to reporters? "All I know about him is that he had 4 wives and written 1 book. Too bad it's not the other way around." By the late 1940s, both women were household names. They both starred in a number of iconic movies. Olivia walked away with 2 Oscars and Joan had 1. And no, they didn't exactly call to congratulate each other. Olivia built a reputation for being poised and polished, the kind who preserved her public image and kept her sisterly grievances behind a close-lipped smile. Joan was the more volatile one, emotional and outspoken, as you may know by now, never afraid to tell a reporter exactly what she thought. But the roles they played in public weren't always the ones they played behind the scenes. And that push and pull between image and reality followed them throughout their whole careers. But as cameras stopped rolling and the spotlight dimmed, the sisters' story took another turn, and one that would unfold in memoirs, interviews, and final farewells. By the 1950s, Olivia and Joan weren't just living separate lives. They were basically in separate worlds. Olivia moved to Paris with her son and married Pierre Gallant, editor of Paris Match. Serious, refined, and tight-lipped as ever. Joan, meanwhile, jumped into New York high society, fresh off a messy custody battle with her second husband, William Dozier. But distance didn't cool the tension. Joan recalled Olivia coming to see her in Tea and Sympathy in London in 1954. Olivia's grand review, "Isn't it something?" That's all she had to say. Later, Joan threw Olivia a party in New York. Olivia didn't show. Instead, she sent a massive bouquet of flowers. Joan, never the one to waste a moment, took her friends straight to the arrangement and said, "Meet my guest of honor." She said Olivia never had looked lovelier. Still, there were rare moments that looked like sisterhood, at least on paper. Joan claimed she loaned Olivia money in 1969 when she was leaving Gallant. And in 1974, after Joan's painful breakup with her longtime boyfriend, she wrote that Olivia dressed me, put me to bed, held me in her arms as she sang Japanese lullabies from our childhood. Almost sounds like they were healing. Almost. But whatever truce might have existed crumbled after their mother's death in 1975. Joan said she was on tour performing and only learned about her mother's passing through a wire from Olivia, not a call, not even a proper letter. According to Joan, Olivia made no effort to truly inform her. The funeral was scheduled without her input, and when she pushed back, Olivia changed the date, allegedly only to avoid a press scandal. At the service, Joan wrote, "She scattered a handful of ashes, then silently passed the container to me. Thus, I said goodbye forever to my mother. As for Olivia, I had no words at all." From that moment on, the sisters never spoke again. Years later, when Joan began writing her autobiography, she said she was finally ready to tell her side, because Olivia hijacked the funeral. Olivia defiantly said, "A feud implies continuing hostile conduct between two parties. I cannot think of a single instance where I initiated hostile behavior." Joan could think of several. When Joan died in 2013 at the age of 96, ironically, years later, she told People magazine, "Olivia had always said I was first at everything. I got married first, I got an Academy Award first, I had a child first. If I die first, she'll be furious, because again, I'll have gotten there first." Well, she did. And Olivia, 97 at the time, said she was shocked and saddened. But by 2016, she had more to say. In her autobiography, Every Frenchman Has One, originally published in 1962, Olivia famously referred to a mysterious dragon lady, though she never admitted who it was. That was not until her sister passed away. Olivia stated, "Dragon Lady, as I eventually decided to call her, was a brilliant, multi-talented person, but with an astigmatism in her perception of people and events." She finally confirmed it. Dragon Lady was Joan. So where does that leave us? With two sisters, both legends, both wildly talented, and both complicated. It spanned their childhood bedrooms, movie sets, red carpets, marriages, funerals, and decades of silence. A war waged in interviews, autobiographies, banquets, and yes, a few very well-placed jabs. One sister always wanted to be first, the other wanted the last word. And somehow I guess we can say they both got what they wanted. And there you have it, decades of drama and sisterly love. Olivia and Joan may have mastered the art of the icy feud, but was it as savage as the war between Joan Crawford and Bette Davis? Oh, you're gonna want to see that one next. If you've loved this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments below, especially if you're Team Olivia or Team Dragon Lady. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.